by Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri for all the various stakeholders. He cited the government, the industry, and of course academia, including the skills training centers, to really come together and move forward speedily to contribute to the development of our state as well as our nation. So thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri, for setting the tone for this industry luncheon talk. So on that note, I'd like to welcome to the stage our speakers for today, Mr. Mohammad Ali Bin Hajah, who is the CEO of the Federation of Malaysian Skills Development Center, and Mr. Amir Rahman Ali Anwar, Chief Strategy Officer of the Aerodyne Group. Yeah, let's give them a big round of applause. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just to share with you a little bit how we're going to do this industry luncheon talk. We will have Encik Muhammad going first as the first speaker, followed by our second speaker here. All right, I'll do the introductions one by one after this, and then we will have a joint Q&A session at the end of both presentations. All right, so I'd like to welcome the gentlemen on stage to in for an exciting talk, and we would encourage all of you to ask questions during the Q&A section, or even if there's an interaction session, please feel free to ask questions to our dear speakers. So ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker on my left is Mr. Mohammad Ali Bin Hajah. All right, he is the CEO of the Federation of Malaysian Skills Development Centers, or is known in short FMSDC. It was founded in 1999. So what does FMSDC do? You might be wondering. All right, so the Federation works very closely with the government and the industry to develop Malaysians' talent pool. So at the heart of their activities is the quest to expand the reach of technical and vocational education and training, TVET for short, as well as STEM education. All right, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics across the length and breadth of Malaysia. I think you are all aware that in Malaysia, we are really short-headed when it comes to technical expertise, right? So we have an exciting way forward. Currently, Mr. Mohammad here, he also leads a startup company known as Ideal Wheels Sendirian Berhad, which is involved in the design and building of smart and intelligent machines as well as equipment. He has a wealth of professional experience spanning more than 26 years, okay, covering many different sectors. For example, electronic engineering, mechanical engineering, telecommunications, ICT, as well as corporate strategy. Right? Prior to his current appointment as CEO of FMSDC, he was the CEO of the Penang Skills Development Center. And of course, he has a long and illustrious career, not only in Malaysia, but abroad. For example, he was the ICT advisor to the Prime Minister of Kazakhstan for quite a number of years. And currently, he is a member of the Board of Advisors for a number of colleges and universities in Malaysia. And as well, he is an advisor to the Malaysian Ministry of Education on TVET policy development. Now this afternoon, Mohammad here will be sharing on an industry-relevant topic, SME digital transformation, steps before process and technology. The stage is yours, Mohammad. Let's give him a round of applause.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon to Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri, the Management Council members of Sarawak Skill, Encik Halman, MD and also Chairman of the Federation Skills Development Center, ladies and gentlemen, friends, it's an honor to be here, invited, and it feels great once more to be able to be in a stage, because it's been a while. I think since 18 March 2020, this is the first time that I'll be able to be on the stage, even though there are a lot of events going on the webinar basis. It really feels different and nice. Okay, today what I'm going to talk is about SME transformations. I'm lucky enough to be involved in the technology sectors for a while. I'm by person as an engineer. I started as a mechanical engineer. Then I furthered my study to be an electronic engineer from Hanyang University, Korea. I did my master's in cybersecurity, and currently I'm doing my PhD in manufacturing from University of Malaysia, Perlis. Work-wise, my first half of the work is all about engineering, from design centers to managing the operations of one of the multinational in Southeast Asia. Then I venture into trainings where I become a CEO of a Federation of Business, CEO of the PSDC in 2014. Now I'm back to the industry, again doing something that I like most, is helping industry to be more productive and efficiency. So that's something that I'm going to talk and share today. My view from industry, go back to education, try to transform give a feedback to education so that they move towards producing graduates that will help industry to be more productive and efficient. Now back to the industry. Okay, I'm going to cover today 5 areas, even though the time is given to me by 30 minutes. I'll try my best to put into within 30 minutes. The first one, I've glanced through about Sarawak digital economy, which is launched in 2018. Right? What is this about? Because whatever we're going to do as an industries in Sarawak should follow, the directions been set by the state government, because that will be very easy for us to move forward. Then I'm going to talk about something in the area of technology transformation. What is this technology transformation? What we should achieve? How it has been done? And what is supposed to produce, the common practices. Then I'm going to touch base on Industry 4.0, in the area of productivity and efficiencies, challenges and missing link when we are doing this, and also bridging the missing link. Okay, I'll just skip this slide. I've been lucky enough to be involved in the Industry 4.0 journey quite early. When I was leading Financial Development Center, my members of the industry in 2015 has invested quite a bit of money to transform themselves to Industry 4.0. 2016, they had a problem. Then there are a meeting between 40 CEOs of multinational and local company in 2016, where I facilitated, and then we been given a charter to look into it, how to solve. Basically, when you put too much technology into the operations broadly, it produces 2 problems. One, existing workforce engineers that work in that sector are not exposed to this new technology. Second one, the supplier who are supplying the solutions and services to this multinational also not ready. So how that need to be solved? That's where I started to be involved in the Industry 4.0 transformation. Then I'm lucky enough to go to Germany for 2 weeks to visit biggest company to smallest company, how they practice Industry 4.0. Was given a tour by my member company, PSDC, then came back to Malaysia, planned a strategy. And the strategy that we have participated as well adapted by the Malaysian government, MITI, where I was being appointed in a high-level task force and lead 2 areas, SME transformation and talent development. So that's why I involved on this. Coming back into this digital Sarawak, these are some of the things that I have picked up. This basically is a very comprehensive document which has been published by Sarawak Sarawak State Government, we specifically talk about out of many 15 initiatives, one specific initiative in the area of Industry 4.0. And it is captured very well. It should be in the area of productivity, which is actually very well, presented. Right. Then I go further. If you look at the chart at the bottom, right bottom, it's talk about the area of where they're going to look at, which is the area of the collaboration of an institution of higher learning, enhanced ecosystem in the area of Samajaya High Tech Park. So then I further notice what is kind of assistance has been developed in this ecosystem to support. In my observation, right, it needs to be validated, right? A lot of initiative has been done in this aspect. One sector, which is I couldn't find any, program to support for this group of industry to move is actually in the area of the manufacturing. So a lot of programs has been highlighted in the area of transforming a new generation to move forward. But one area which is very important for the whole economy to grow is in the area of the manufacturing, where the manufacturers, regardless of their size, small and big, need to be assisted to move. When I say manufacturers, please take up your mindset that they need to be industry. Even a fishbowl maker is a manufacturer because it takes one material in one form, process it and produce another one. A noodle maker is a manufacturer. A bakery is a manufacturer. The one that makes kuih bauru is a manufacturer. So the paradigm of looking into manufacturing needs to be shifted because in ecosystem of SME, these are the biggest group of people that need to be looked into to help them to be more productive. So let's go back to my main topic that I'm going to talk today. Okay, when we talk about Industry 4.0, I've learned something now because I advocated. Before I was advocating Industry 4.0 is the transformation agent, to move industry forward, to be producing whatever they want. But I think that statement that I usually do is not the most correct statement. It needs to be rephrased. The right element that needs to be done. Industry 4.0 is actually a tools that enable the SMEs, the manufacturers, the local large company, multinational, to be more productive and efficient. Because if any industry, if they are not productive, if they are not efficient, they cannot do one thing that they are supposed to do, making money. Every industry's responsibility is to be profitable, to make money. Any technology transformation that we do, if it doesn't cover this particular area, better don't do. That is something that what I'm going to talk next. And the common practices that I've seen in many industries, just to name, I think if you are industry representative, you will start understand what I'm talking about. Now, when after the COVID, when the economy start open up, you will have a lot of orders if you are in the manufacturing industry. Suddenly, order booms up, and every industry responsibility is actually to meet the customer demand to produce more. And in Malaysia, generally, regardless of what is the challenge, our SMEs in any company are able to do so. Somehow they were able to do so. We always able to meet. Because if you don't meet that customer demand, there will be no support to us. But I always ask the questions when I meet the SMEs. What is your install capacity and what is your expansion capacity? The answers that I get without fail, SMEs can tell the install capacity very well, but what is the expansion capacity, they are not able to tell. This is the problem, because when you do not know what's your capability to expand, you will expand not the correct way. What I mean by that, when suddenly, if my company can produce 10,000 units, when additional order comes in, I need to produce more 10,000 kuih bauru or more 5,000 kuih bauru. There are two ways of companies will expand. One, horizontal expansion, another one vertical. Horizontal expansion is actually, if I have 20 people working, I have a 3 hour, I will just put another 10 people and put 1 hour. I'm able to meet the customer demand. This is what we call horizontal expansion. But please remember, when you do horizontal expansion, your cost increase. You are not productive yet. That's what we see a problem. Whenever in 2020 pandemic started, many companies in Malaysia, they have grown horizontally, suddenly no order. That's why they have to shed a lot of workforce. If the company has a vertical, if my installed capacity is 10,000 koi balu, if to do 15,000, I use technology and productivity to do it, then I don't have to take out a lot of workforce. This is what companies and industry need to look at, what they are. What is their current and what is the future expansion. Believe me, I've been working in multinational companies throughout Southeast Asia and Malaysia, and also through my CEO-ship of PLCC, I looked at many companies. Multinational companies will have this installed in their mindset and everybody knows about it. Local large company and SMEs, they will live with their expanding capacity. They will never have installed capacity, always the next level. So when we are able to meet customer demand with search of order, we will do it. As I mentioned, all mentioned company is Malaysia boleh, we will do it. But there's some key element of transformation will be missing. What are those elements? Is what the key topic that I'm going to talk today. In technology transformation, there are three components: people, process, technology. Remember, go back to Koi Baulu. This is why I choose Koi Baulu, because this project that I personally involved is in the one Koi Baulu. A few years back in 2017, when I'm giving a talk under the MITI, after I finished the MITI talk, one lady came to me. She's running Koi Baulu behind her house, and she's telling me that, whenever order increase, they have a quality problem. And then she said she wants to stop using Industry 4.0. I accepted her invitation, go to her house. Behind her house, there is a few ovens, and there is a few Indonesian workers are doing it. During that year, she's doing around 300,000 ringgit revenue selling Koi Baulu, which is very good, right? But when order increase during wedding season, there will be a lot of rejects, like a black mark, from the oven or whatever you say that will be there in Koi Baulu. So she had to throw a lot of things, and she struggled when the order increased. So we looked at it, we studied it, we said that, how do you expand? She said that whenever I have more order, I borrow oven, I get more people to come and do. It's a problem. Because you only address the technology portion, not the process and the people portion. We did study, we recommended, and we showed to her, if she invests nearly 25,000 in her operation, her next year revenue can hit 1 million ringgit. And she did not 1 million, 500,000 next year. That is something that what productivity and efficiency is about. So this is why she can do that, because she did the people transformation first. She transformed herself. She understands what need to do because she's a content expert, and she goes through the process of transformation. Process and technology come later from the people. Then let's come back to Industry 4.0. When we talk about Industry 4.0, we always talk about something big. In the video, usually in television, YouTube, you can see, car without drivers, everything is good. That is not Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 transformation in Malaysia is combining of three components. Every single manufacturing companies will have three components: operation technology where they work, companies of information technology readily available, and finance technology. They will use bank payment, internet payment, now Instagram payment, whatever payment you have. So Industry 4.0, you take three existing components in your company, put together, and increase your productivity. This is Industry 4.0, which is mean for any company who present here, you have the component to transform yourself to go to Industry 4.0 to increase productivity and efficiency, the tools. This is something that you should, look at, and you don't have to buy new machines. These are the examples, some of the projects that I've done. We take very old machines to upgrade it so that it can be Industry 4.0. I'll take this example, very easy. This is a project also I involved. Fish canning, right? You can the fish. Everyone knows that, when we buy a sardine tin, you will not expect fish with tail and also the head. You process fish. So the company have to take the fish, cut, Do you know that fish size varies? All of us know. But fish during winter and summer even varies, where time that they harvest from the sea. So when the company just have an automated machine cutting, either they will cut more, which is mean reject, or they will cut less, which is they have to do rework. Industry 4.0 is tools to increase productivity. So what happened? They put camera, they put artificial intelligence behind it. Now the cutter adjusts by itself. It knows where's the fish, where's the head of the fish, where's the cut. This is what we call productivity. And we work with this company, identify the pain point. The investment within 7 months they get the ROI. After that, everything profit. This is the a mindset that we need to have when we talk about Industry 4.0, increasing productivity and efficiency. We move forward, from whatever that we have. So, to summarize, whenever we want to do any technology investment in our company, whenever we want to increase order or quality problem, we tend to go to technology first or process first. But please remember, continuous improvement of your people will be able to address the process and technology. In many companies, the people will deliver process and technology. This is wrong. Because when people deliver process and technology, they are not the one that create that. Probably the vendor or someone else do that. People need to drive process and technology. So the first transformation in any company you need to have before they want to go to Industry 4.0 is manage their people, make sure the people have the right, understanding and mindset, and the people the one that come with the process and technology transformation, not the vendor who will happily would like to sell you their technology, equipment, and so on. One more item that I would like to share before I end. Any companies, all of you are here, right? You have two metric in your company: primary metric, secondary metric. The bosses, the owner of the company will know primary metric, which is actually revenue, gross margin, book to bill, EBIT. People down there who do the job, they will play around with secondary metric, yield, machine downtime, process cycle time, and so on. Based on my assessment, throughout my experience of life, and past 2 years, this is apart from my thesis for my PhD, I studied a little bit well. Believe me, all the MNCs, they have seamless integration between primary metric and secondary metric, which is me. The boss know what are the projects, everything they do to improve the yield, which is making more richer, more profit, and people know that whatever things they do down there to make sure that the company get. But those local large company up to many extent, and SME companies, most of the time the question asked, bosses thinks about all about the money. The people in operations is always talk about yield improvement and so on. Whenever you don't have seamless integration between primary metrics, can be a problem. This is where the digitalization comes by. Remember the word digitalization comes by. So please remember when I take earlier, they said the tools support structure not available for SMEs to move to this seamless integration between primary metric, secondary metric. This is where something that all of you have recommended to your state government to think about what are the tools you need to make first people transformation. Second thing, how you can have a tool to integrate your primary metric and secondary metric seamlessly. Believe me, it doesn't matter what is the size of the company. If everybody in the company knows this structure, you will have a better runaway, of your company. Not to say that you have a lot of problem. Let me tell you that if you don't have that, please mark this, do a checklist. These are the items that I detect in a company that do not have seamless integration between primary metric and secondary metric. What the first one? Whatever project that you have done is not expendable. Suddenly you think that the money you invested 2 years ago now, or you have to throw it away, do new projects. You don't have seamless integration between primary metric and secondary metric. Second thing, project always driven by vendors. Whenever you have a problem in a line, your technician or engineer or people call vendor, hey, I have a problem, please come solve. Because the people are not the transformation agent, the vendor is transformation agent. Third, after you invest money, you change in a very short while. Fourth, everyday go problem, yield problem, cost problem, debt problem, always firefighting, quality problems. If there's many other items, if you have any of two of these items, right, you don't have seamless integration of process and technology. If this is the way you do, we see the same result. That's why SMEs in Malaysia always, after some time, they cannot go further. They will, because the problem becomes bigger than what they can handle, they will quit the business. This is true in my state. We can see we started in 1970s the manufacturing activities. Most of the company, after 10, 20 years, they go out from the business. It doesn't grow. Because why? Every firefighting. These are the elements need to be changed. So in order to move, what are the steps all the companies can take before that? First, look into knowledge of your people. This is where institute like Sarawak Skill comes by. They are technology and they are close to industry. They're a little bit different from university and colleges, because university colleges, they are tertiary education. Sarawak Skill kind of institution is looking into close to industry. Work with them. Identify the gap, training need analysis, and make sure that when you send your people for training, they must have some outcome out of it. Second, find some coach that already know a little bit, work with them. Last only, you all go for the technology investment. Don't immediately go to process and technology. Make sure your people drive that. These are the transformation steps. Companies must do the bottom one, awareness, coaching and assessment first. Make sure that people have a strong knowledge before they go for Industry 4.0, any digitalization program and so on. Because if they did this properly step by step, even though it's a difficulty to start at the early, you will have a better outcome later. And the people will stay in the company because they know the company in future and that the company can grow. So some of the trainings which is available. So I think that's about it, on my sharing. There are a lot more things that, I can share based on my experience of helping company transformation. But throughout all my career, looking into all the aspects, if the people is not being addressed, the knowledge of the people is not being addressed, whatever improvement that we do will not last longer. So with that, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you, and also to thank Skill Johor for allowing me to share my knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mohammad, for your wonderful insights. So I'll just do a very quick summary. Of course, we know that to increase productivity all starts with our people. And of course, before the process and technology, we also spoke about awareness and a change of mindset. But we'll leave the questions to the Q&A session after this. So thank you so much, Mohammad, again. Ladies and gentlemen, our second speaker is Mr. Amir Lakwan Anwar on my right here. I'll just do a quick introduction of Amir. He is the Chief Strategy Officer of the Aerodyne Group. Alright, so if you are familiar with the Aerodyne Group, or you may be aware that they are a DT3 solutions provider of drone-based enterprise solutions, and they operate in 35 different countries around the globe. If you know what is DT3, drone technology, data technology, as well as digital transformation. So the Aerodyne Group is a pioneer in the use of artificial intelligence as an enabling technology for large-scale data operations, analytics, as well as process optimization. Currently, Amir here, he spearheads Aerodyne's international expansion, so they are continuing on their expansion mode to different countries around the globe, and as well it takes overseas new strategy development. Prior to joining the Aerodyne Group, he was with Khazanah Nasional Berhad. I think you may be aware, it's the sovereign wealth fund of Malaysia. He was involved in investment management, mergers and acquisition, as well as corporate finance. So during his service there, he worked not only in Malaysia, but in different localities in Europe, where he managed multiple investment portfolios. Actually, even though he's very humble, I spoke to him, multi-billion-dollar portfolios, US dollar portfolios. A wide range of areas he was involved in, like property development, real estate, as well as innovation and technology. Now this afternoon, Amir will be sharing with us on a very timely topic, advancing humanity through drone intelligence. Over to you, Amir. Give a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tani. That was a very, very generous introduction. Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon, Tantri, Dato', ladies and gentlemen, members of the esteemed audience. I think my sharing session is actually quite a good segue from what Mr. Mohammad has shared before, and setting the scene about the need for why we need to undergo digital transformation, as well as the what to do, right? And my presentation will be around how we do it, and perhaps this sharing session will be, a spark of inspiration or debate even. We'll be happy to guide and shepherd that thinking later on. And what we're going to share today is really revolving around advancing humanity through drone intelligence and the growth story of how Aerodyne has done it over the last 7 years. Izin to buka. It's not scary. Okay, that's much better. Okay. Next slide, please. So we'll start with a short video of our work that we've done internationally. So we do bread and butter project monitoring and reporting. So this is the stuff that we've done for Rapid Pengerang and Petronas, and also PNB 118. We do a fair bit of work for Tenaga Nasional in Malaysia, as well as other power companies all over the world, including PLN in Indonesia, ICAT in Thailand, Abu Dhabi Transco, NL, etc. We also do precision agriculture, so we do quite a bit of work in terms of plant health monitoring, mechanization of large-scale agriculture systems, as well as surveillance. We do work with law enforcement agencies to do all these things. And all this is based in Cyberjaya, where we are headquartered, and our talent base are all 80% of our talent base is actually Malaysian, and then we were able to scout and groom for all these talents in Malaysia, and then we'll share our story of how we've done it. So let's talk about some of the numbers now, right? So, just some statistics at the top. I think the highlight number is the one sebelah kanan. We're number 1 in the world in terms of ranking of drone service providers. We're a humble Malaysian company. We started 7 years ago in Kuala Lumpur, in Petaling Jaya, in fact. But 7 years later, we've gone to the pinnacle of the drone service provider rankings. And this is a survey done out of 400 companies around the world, and we're at the top. Interestingly, out of the top 40, the top 10%, there are 4 Malaysian companies, interestingly. And hence why there's a lot of interest and a lot of attention in the drone space, because there's just so many of these good Malaysian companies. Alhamdulillah, we're at the top. Just some assets, some statistics at the top. We manage more than 500,000 critical assets all over the world. That includes more than 380,000 kilometers of power lines, distribution, transmission, generation, wind turbine generators. So WTG is wind turbine generators. Interestingly, the funny story is Malaysia doesn't even have a functioning wind turbine, but we developed a system and solution that we're currently exporting. We've exported to the US, Europe, and also Japan that are using this. Solar is another interesting vertical that we've gone in 2 years ago. So right now we're managing about 7 gigawatts of solar farms all over the world. We operate in 35 countries through 12 regional offices. So our HQ is actually in Cyberjaya, and where they can see that. But we also have other offices, like for example in North America, we cover North America through Washington DC. We cover South America through Santiago, Chile. Europe through in London, in UK, sorry. Middle East in Dubai, Kazakhstan, Russia, New Delhi, Shenzhen, Tokyo, and also Brisbane and Perth. That covers ANZ. We're very proud. This is a snapshot of the rankings provided by Drone Industry Insights, which is the authority in our space, in our industry. They're a German-based independent research agency that does research on the drone space. Alhamdulillah, we're at the top. But there are other Malaysian companies as well. Number 19, number 30 something, 36, and number 20 something. Yeah, so therefore 27. Yeah. Yeah, the others are, as you can see, the very advanced nations. Okay, next please. Okay. Sorry, the step four. So when we talk about the drone industry, right? This is very timely because when we think about drone industry, we need to really recalibrate our thinking of what the drone industry actually means, right? So I want to bring your attention to, of course, there's some very interesting numbers. The industry is growing at a very fast scale, at 50% CAGR from 2017 to 2027. So that's the industry estimate, about 50% per annum, right? But I think what I want to draw your attention to is this chart at the bottom. I hope you can see it's a bit blurred, but the key point here is that if you think about the drone industry, the first image that comes to your mind is actually a person holding a remote control, flying a drone, taking some pictures, right? I mean, that's the most common imagery that comes to your mind. But in terms of dollars and cents, that's commoditized. There's not much money to be made there, right? I mean, the price of drones are getting way cheaper. In fact, when we started Aerodyne in 2014, cost of drones was like $1 million plus per drone. I'm not kidding you, this is really expensive. Now you can buy a consumer drone for 2,000 ringgit. That's how cheap it is now. And because of this industry trend, this activity of actually flying and capturing pictures, right, it becomes commoditized. Any mom and pop can do it. So where's your competitive edge, right? If let's say everybody can do it, semua orang boleh buat lah, makcik-makcik boleh buat, senang je nak fly drone sekarang ni. Right? So the real value driver is actually at the top, which is analytics, data platform, infrastructure as a service, artificial intelligence, and data management. Right? So when we think about the drone industry, when we talk about, like I said, the capturing data, the real value driver is the data analytics, the AI. These are all the value-added services that come with, when our clients, when we manage infrastructure assets for our clients, that is the real value driver of our clients. Really fat margins. But the provided that you can provide the right talent, right? I mean, this is still a challenge that everywhere in the world we're all fighting with the same pool of talent. So this is, if you can solve that talent problem, this is the real money maker behind the drone industry. Next please. So, I always get this question, right? Aerodyne ni company America kan? Tengok Wolf of Wall Street ada company nama Aerodyne? Bukan, actually bukan. We're a Malaysian company, born and bred. Our founders are Malaysians. We have taken a little bit of external funding, which makes up about 50% of our cap table right now. But by and large, 85% of our funding, of our shareholders are still Malaysian, our founders and also a bunch of gigs and also local funds. But I think what I wanted to highlight here is that we are committed to building the country, right? So not just, for example, in our agriculture space where we help mechanize, we work with MAFI, we work with large agriculture companies in Malaysia to really mechanize the entire value chain. But also not just the mechanization, but also the value-added services, the plant health monitoring, disease detection, very early stage ganoderma detection for palm oil, for example. But also, training the talent in the future, right? Because really, it's a win-win. We train this talent, and we get to absorb some of this talent, but at the same time, the whole industry benefits, the whole country benefits because of this high value-added talent. And the talent that we are training are in the higher value-added services that I talked about earlier on, data analytics, IoT, artificial intelligence, software development, etc. Right. So just a little bit of factoids, right? We speak 27 languages in the whole company, in the 35 countries that we operate in. But we're also committed to create like 3,000 jobs within the next 3 years. And this is, like I said, within the sectors that we talked about earlier on. The AI, the data analytics, the Internet of Things, etc. Next please. Tunjuk gambar lah, kita tunjuk gambar, right? The drone company, kita tunjuk gambar. So all these are some pictures of our operations globally. Kat bawah ni, this is actually the Atacama Desert in Chile. This is the North Sea, in Europe. This is also in Chile. This is in Russia. Tengah-tengah sejuk, they were doing operations at minus 30 degrees. So this is just some of the operations that we do globally. Those are some of the toys that we have, our drones at the office. We call toys. Next please. Okay, now comes the bread and butter, the crux of really what does Aerodyne do in the field of creating value for clients, for Malaysia, for the world really. It's bucketed into three. That's hence our DTQ lah. That's really our what we do, our bread and butter what we do. Drone technology, data technology, and also digital transformation. And I'll go through what all these actually mean in the subsequent slides. So when we talk about drone technology is really the field of data capture. I talked about the imagery of a person with a joystick flying a drone, taking pictures, right? Yeah, of course that's very, very outdated, right? The drones, basically drone tech is really data capture. You can use different configurations of drones, payloads. It can be multispectral, it can be thermal, it can be RGB, it can be, you name it, night vision, whatever. LiDAR, for example. But ultimately, whatever configuration that we choose to perform these operations really need to be fit to the scope at hand. So for example, for oil and gas, for example, Petronas, one of our anchor clients, one of the scopes that we do is really flash stack inspection, right? So these are those, ada api atau kan, those tiang-tiang tinggi tu. So the inspection means outside and also inside. We have to, for example, we have to detect corrosion inside the flash stack. So what do? You cannot fly a drone inside there, right? It's a confined space. This is a GPS denied environment. Your drone cannot fly inside. So we have very specific drones that are in cages that can fly inside. They're very small, but still are able to fly within GPS denied environments. So whatever, like I said, so it goes back to the point where whatever drone, whatever equipment that we use needs to be fit for purpose. I give you another example. We've done some work with Sumitomo in Indonesia, where we had to do an under-pier inspection. So they had a port, they own a port asset in Indonesia. But the problem is always kat bawah ni, dia atas nampak cantik lah, bawah ni tak tahu lah, kita tahu underneath the port, right? What's happening underneath, So we use ROV. Basically these are all, it's a drone, it's underwater drone lah, it's not a flying drone, it's underwater drone lah. Right? We use an ROV to perform this data capture. So when we talk about drone tech, it's really deploying the right equipment, the right people, the right skill sets to perform these operations at a global scale. So right now, subject to regulatory clearances, right now kita punya SLA with our clients is we can deliver these drone teams, of course, subject to regulatory clearance within 72 hours. Right? Our target is kita nak jadi Amazon Prime lah. You order today, you get today. So hopefully that's something that we are working towards. In the future, inshallah. Next, please. So this is the stuff that really makes money, right? So this is data technology. These are the software platforms that we have built with industry knowledge for all the different verticals, different sectors that we work in. So for example, the top left, that's a software platform that we built for agriculture. So the greens and the reds, those are plant health monitoring. The reds means there are quadrants that require intervention, which means there lack hydration, nitrogen, potassium to the granularity of the element that is lacking. Of why you cannot produce a certain type of yield as opposed to other plants within the vicinity is because you need to intervene a element of some sort, right? So the top right, that's a screenshot of a solar platform that we use. Like I said, we built this in the US. Sorry, we built this in Malaysia for a US client, right? But this is right now being used in Europe, Japan, India, and so on and so forth. The bottom left is a screenshot of a wind turbine generator platform being used in the North Sea and also in the US, Japan. This is the interesting one. So the bottom right, this is a screenshot of a platform that we use for TNB, Tenaga Nasional, for power line inspection. So if you see those boxes, I don't know whether you can see those little green and blue boxes. Those are AI annotations, right? So the AI has been built in 2016. It has basically 5 years already worth of data of different asset classes from everywhere in the world. So the amount of imagery, the amount of data that the AI has been exposed to is quite significant already. Hence, it's able to measure with a very high level of accuracy of defects with different levels of severities, right? So for example, kalau a simple example is, for example, kalau ni tiang elektrik, and you have few thousand kilometers of tiang elektrik. Vegetation management is a key problem, right? Basically, you don't want the pokok to touch the trees, right, all around your power lines. You don't want the vegetation to touch your power line. So this is something that we also do through the system that the data capture. I mean, drone ni fly, tangkap gambar, capture all the imagery, which is not just RGB. Can include thermal, for example. As you can see on the screen, you can do night vision, you can do LiDAR, for example. Any data point goes through the system will then analyze and produce insight. Like for example, in the next 6 months, if you do not cut this vegetation, it's going to touch your transformer and it's going to cause you 2 million ringgit in damage, for example, to that level of granularity, right? So these are some of the value-added services that we provide to our client. This is the how. This is the TNB saw this as a big problem, and hence the thinking was, okay, we need to really digitally transform how we manage our infrastructure assets, and hence they work with us, right? To really provide the how we can do it, and we create value, right? There's dollar savings over there, and then for us it's really the providing provision service to our clients. Next please. So we talk about digital transformation. The stuff that we've created, the solutions that we've come up with have been used all over the world, right? So we talk about our lines here. You can see all those little blue dots for telco, the yellow ones for wind turbine, and the green ones for geospatial intelligence. I think interestingly, I wanted to share an anecdote. Since we've been talking about all this international expansion, blah 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 blah, but we were really hit hard when COVID-19, right? We were really hit hard. 2 years of our operations, contract dah ada in hand, tapi because this is a cross-border punya project, we couldn't execute. Borders closed, we couldn't execute, right? So for example, there was one project in Saudi Arabia that was supposed to be delivered through our UAE office. Tapi border between Saudi Arabia and UAE closed. How are we supposed to, a lot of projects were put on hold. In fact, one hospitality client in the hospitality space, the hotel manager, one of the big hotel chains I shouldn't mention who, cancelled terus because hospitality industry was really hit hard because of the lack of travel, etc. So they cancelled terus. They say it's not that we don't want to work with you, so we don't have the means to pay you, right? But anyway, so we dug deep and we're like, okay, our revenue base is gonna be hit hard. What are we gonna do next, right? So we looked internally and said, hey, actually in Malaysia, right, there's a lot of opportunity for us to really expand, the deepening the presence in Malaysia. So we looked at new verticals. So through that crisis came a silver lining where we actually started building our agriculture services, right? Then we're like, okay, this one a big issue because foreign labor kena halau balik, and then this plantation companies were screaming because the fruit was rotting on trees, nobody to take, nobody to manage, right? And then interestingly, CPO price went through the roof at that time, right? Because of crazy demand. So we came up with a vertical, our agriculture vertical. We work with the likes of Sandabi, Felda, Faltra, etc. to really mechanize the entire value chain. And here we are, looking to expand. We've actually built a team here in Sarawak to really expand our services in the agriculture space. And also training. We also saw this opportunity like, hey, if we really need to build this talent base, we need to be creating bespoke talent that is suited to our needs, right? So the AI talent, the data analytics talent, IoT talent, etc., to really help our pursuit of this digital transformation. So when we talk about digital transformation, it's also a good segue from what Mr. Mohammad shared earlier on. It's profit, right? Profit in terms of cost savings for the company that implements it. So for example, the top one, for example, cell tower. This is a telco tower. We've managed many telco towers from the likes of edotco in Malaysia and also Telstra in Australia. Ericsson, we have a global contract. So what does that actually mean, right? So in terms of telecommunication tower inspection, we've reduced the amount of time, which is really asset downtime, which is really revenue loss for them, the longer the downtime, right? So we've reduced this downtime from 5 days to 1, which is insane. This is like 5x, right? 5x, in terms of speed. But in terms of dollars and cents, ringgit and cents, right? This is 20 to 30% cost saving. When you talk about the national, when you talk about 20 to 30%, it's really, the puluh-puluh atau ratus-ratus juta lah kind of number, right? Because they have their assets all over the world, all over Malaysia. And last but not least, we talk about safety. When we talk about oil and gas, for example, the first rule, LTI OSHA compliant. That's the first thing that they ask, right? And we're very proud to say that we follow the highest standards. We work for Saudi Aramco, we do work for Petronas, and we have to adhere to the highest standards. So ultimately, what this all sums up to is, kita punya mantra, it has to be Hayai, Yasui, Umai, and Z. These are 4 Japanese words, right? Hayai, Yasui, Umai, and Z. Faster, better, cheaper, safer. And that is the real crux of digital transformation. You want to have a solution that works faster than existing systems. It needs to be better than existing systems. In this case, the data that we provide is more in terms of quantity and better in terms of quality. You have all those insights in an app on your phone, on your tablet, web browser, anywhere that you need to access, right? So project engineers don't need to be on site anymore. They can be in a meeting room and they still get information at their fingertips. Apa yang rosak, apa yang kena buka, etc. Was it faster, better, cheaper? Cheaper needs to make economical sense lah. And last but not least, it needs to be safer. No more app selling, no more scaffolding, no more human lives at risk to perform all this critical infra management. It's all automated, it's all drone based, it's all aerial robots that's doing all this work for us. Next please. So I don't want to go into the details, but really what we do is we streamline our products into 4. Agri-More is our flagship agriculture solution that would range from mechanization to basically the services with regards to large-scale plantation management, etc. Fulcrum is our nested swarm intelligence system. What does this mean? Banyak jargon ni. Okay, Fulcrum, imagine siapa ada Roomba or robot vacuum, Samsung vacuum ke apa kat rumah kan. You know how that works, right? Basically, the vacuum goes around your house vacuuming and it will go back to the docking station to charge, right? Imagine that with a drone. Pilotless, you don't need to pilot it. All you need to do is really just set waypoints on the platform, our software platform, and the drone flies by itself. Once it's done with this mission, it goes back to charge. Another drone can be deployed from another nest. We call it nest like charging station, right? Another drone can be deployed from a nest, which will provide persistent data capture, persistent monitoring, persistent surveillance. Think about the implications to real estate. For example, you don't need to hire 50 security guards to patrol your area. You need 2 drones, that's it. Right? On a rooftop somewhere that is patrolling, doing all this aerial imagery, coupled with the AI on board that we put in to recognize faces, to recognize plate numbers, etc. Once it's done, it goes to charge, another drone can be deployed. All you need is 2 or 3 maximum. You don't need 50 people to patrol the surrounding areas anymore. And the beauty of it is, you probably need 1 person to look at maybe 20 different screens lah. Doesn't have to look also. Can be playing Candy Crush for all I can. If there are any interesting threats or points of interest, the person who's actually monitoring will get notifications on their phone. So tak payah tengok pun ada 20 screens saya cakap, ya tengok Julie one person looking at 20 screen only. Dapat notification, then only you intervene. Right? Otherwise, no need, just 1 person. And this is some of the stuff that we are deploying in Malaysia and also internationally. So Dronos is our software platform. It's an amalgamation of all our software platforms that we talked about. There's solar, there's maybe wind turbine generator, there's power lines, and others. But last but not least is what we call Project Agenda Biz. Project Agenda Biz is really planning forward. This under the umbrella of urban air mobility, which really covers logistics, drone delivery, etc. Right now, the market's not ready for it yet, to be very, very honest with you. But the technology is ready. So what we're doing is we're preparing for when the market is ready for this, and we foresee this within the next 24 to 36 months. When we talk about readiness, it's not just technology ready, right? Where it's market adoption, regulatory consent, etc. So we foresee this within the next 2 to 3 years, inshallah. But right now we're just preparing for that. So these are just some of the pictures of Agri-More that we've done. For example, that is the chairman of Felda inside there. And these are large-scale plantations that we do. Right now we do palm oil, we do paddy, we do nenas, durian, and also a newer one is that what, Japanese melon, right? What is it? The newer one, yeah. But the biggest one right now, our biggest exposure is in palm oil, right? And in Malaysia, with the largest for large-scale operations. We have a crew of about 100 plus right now, and this is going to grow to like 300 by mid next year. Again, perhaps through working with through Sarawak skills, etc., we can get the manpower to build our team in Sarawak. I mean, that's the whole point there. But I think the whole reason why Agrimo was built is because there's a fundamental structural issue with regards to agriculture in Malaysia. We are, let's be honest, we are very, very highly dependent on foreign labor. Right? Malaysians, ourselves as Malaysians, we don't want to work in agriculture. It's not interesting enough for us to work in agriculture, right? I mean, we hear all these things, right? The 3D, dirty, demeaning, and dangerous, right? We hear this all the time. Well, what does this mean in terms of what we do to try and reverse this? Right? Well, through the injection of technology, through the injection of getting certified, being a agriculture drone pilot, for example, we are hoping to induce what we call a reverse migration. Right? Reverse migration means orang-orang bandar go back to kampung, perform all these agricultural services with the infusion of technology, so that it becomes appealing to young people to go back to and it makes money, right? It's appealing, it makes money, makes sense to do this using drones. You're a certified drone pilot, etc., etc. Next please. I think we have to skim through. I'll just show a video of what we do in agriculture. This is just some footage. Hopefully gives you some color. It's a 1 minute video. But the drones are able to then detect the trees and perform spraying of pesticides, fertilizers, very specific for the tree. So it's very surgical. It doesn't waste pesticides, etc. As you can see here, it goes from one tree to another because it detects there's a radar that detects the height, detects the tree, so that it doesn't spill up. Very surgical. And right now we're managing close to 150,000 hectares of palm oil right now. But of course, we can scale this, no issue. I think we can skip this one. I mean, we're almost at the end already. There's one video last week, okay, this one. It's just a final video lah. I think a video tells you 1,000 words, right? And these are basically just to reinforce the message about all the different products that we use. So this is agri, you saw it just now. This is fulcrum, the one I talked about. That's the nest. I talked about flies by itself from a nest. And we use this for one law enforcement agency in Malaysia to do the border security. This is our flagship software platform for all critical infrastructure assets. And last but not least, urban air mobility. This is where we talk about road deliveries, etc. Okay, I think I'll stop there. I think hopefully this gives you a bit of flavor, a little bit of color of what we do, how we do it in terms of pushing the agenda of digital transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammad, for the segue. Hopefully that gives you a bit of spark some inspiration about how this can be done. And I'm happy to take some questions later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Amir, for sharing with us many interesting nuggets of information. There you can see the infusion of technology or injection of technology into the current the way we do things, right? Transforming the way normally things are done. All right. So thank you so much for that. I think you are full of wonderful insights as well. Because in the interest of time here, I think we will be able to have a quick question and answer session. So now I'd like to open the floor that we will be happy to take any questions from the members of the audience. Any questions? Or maybe, yes, there's a question there. Yes, thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya Ramdan bin Mahri, Juruko Tanah Malaysia Sarawak. Saya ingin mengajukan satu soalan ataupun pertanyaan kaitan dengan drone kepada saudara. Lupa nama dia. Okey, dapat. Saya nak tanya tentang syarikat Puan banyak terlibat dengan drone dan industri drone yang saya rasa di Malaysia ni mungkin dah buat banyak beribu-ribu kali penerbangan dan sebagainya. Saya ingin nak tahu tentang peraturan ataupun kawalan yang dikenakan oleh kemungkinan Jabatan Penerbangan Awam dan sebagainya kan. Sebab di Sarawak ni setakat ni kami orang di Juruko Tanah Malaysia memang dah orang kata mencebur diri dalam industri drone, lidar dan sebagainya. Tapi sehingga sekarang kita tak dapat satu kata peraturan yang betul-betul jelas. Kita nak terbang drone berapa tinggi, berapa berat drone yang kita boleh bawa, setakat mana yang kita pasan yang kita boleh ni tak berapa jelas walaupun dah ada satu gambaran. Tapi saya nak tanya tentang selama ni mungkin ada apa-apa peraturan yang jelas yang diberi oleh kerajaan Malaysia terutamanya lah. Okay, terima kasih.
Boleh, tak ada masalah. Betul, soalan tu memang very relevant. In Malaysia, if anybody were to guess how many regulators we have 3. Right? There are 3 regulators or 3 approvals that we need to get. The first one is CAM, of course, Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia. The second one is Jabatan Pemerintah dan Hukum. And the last one is MCMC. MCMC is more the hardware because they govern the radio frequency between the controller and the drone. So to answer your question, memang susah, memang betul. For us, operations, sometimes we start like 3 weeks before in terms of getting approval. The window tu can be between 14 to 21 days nak dapat approval ni. So, kita kena dapat lah parameter mana kita nak fly, etc. So, but what I can say is that, to answer your question, CAAF is very progressive, right? So, there are guidelines that are going to come up very soon. We are actually working behind the scenes to really help them in terms of to steer the thinking about what will be permissible, what shouldn't be permissible, etc. Very relevant points for weight, height, for example. And these rules are coming up very soon. There will be what we call a UTM, Unmanned Traffic Management System. So typically for regulators nak tahu siapa yang fly, etc. ni, kalau macam kita punya aviation industry semua ada radar, semua kena comply with IATA, ICAO standards, right? But there is no one standard for drone industry. That's absolutely right. So what we're doing in Malaysia is we're working with CAM to really come up with a UTM framework so that every single drone that is registered is able to be tracked on the UTM system. CAM lah kena track, right? So CAM akan track this one registration number so and so 12345 owned by Encik Ramzi, for example, is flying dekat sini tapi permission dia tentu dapat untuk perimeter ni je. Kenapa dia keluar luar? Then there will be a punitive measure lah. There will be a penalty or whatsoever because they tak fly ikut dia punya predetermined registration, for example. So all these things are coming, insyaAllah. If I recall correctly, 2022, insyaAllah, that's the timeline. Of course, subject to any delays whatsoever lah. Maybe it's all regulatory, right? But the timeline that what we've been told is insyaAllah next year. This is coming up. With comprehensive drone rules, regulation for drones.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. And Encik Ahmed, we have a question coming in to us over here. I think this is, but I'd like to invite both speakers just to comment. This is from the small and medium-sized industries. They are asking that based on the 2 presentations, of course there is some investment in new technology, but things are changing so fast nowadays. There's a matter of what you call planned obsolescence. I mean, when you buy equipment, maybe it will only last for a few years. So is it really worth it? Maybe I'd like to pose this question to Mohammad first, followed by Amir, maybe. Would that be okay? Yeah. So whether it's worth to invest in equipment that only lasts perhaps 3 years because of the changes, the very fast changes in technology.
Okay, thank you, Steven. Untuk manufacturing industry, selalunya sebelum kita invest in upgrading semua, kita akan calculate siap dia punya return of investment time. Kan, macam tadi saya tunjuk tu, if we put it in this equipment, we will get return of investment maybe dalam 7 bulan, 11 tahun, 2 tahun. And the good thing in manufacturing industries, if you put in some automations, upgrading it can last probably around 3 years, unless you want to increase your productivity and you want to change to new equipment and so on. So in manufacturing and process industry, it is all will be factored in. So whatever investment that you do will not be taken out unless you meet your ROI. So please be very careful before deciding to put in any investment. Make sure that the ROI is properly calculated. So there is not really an issue of the technology that you put in become obsolete. It's a very stable industry.
Alright, so thank you, Mohammad. So of course the matter of ROI needs to be considered. And I mean, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I would like to echo that. This is a real problem that we are facing. I mean, we consume technology, right? And in our industry, obsolescence of drones is like 12 to 18 months, which is ridiculously short, right? And for example, you see, just look at the DJI's. Just go to DJI's website. How frequent new models come out, and every model is cheaper, every model is better, which means the stuff that you bought 2 years ago may not be relevant anymore, not competitive and so. But what we do is we have to plan ROI. So for example, when this echoing what Mohammad said, what we do is we have to basically determine, for example, when we buy a fleet of, let's say, 100 of this particular type of drone, we need to basically have minimum targets of what units it needs to serve. So for example, agriculture drones, for example, kita dah tahu dah what is our minimum number of hectareage that we need to service before it meets the return investment, and after that profit. Right? If let's say dah profit tu, if let's say a new technology comes in, then obsolete lah. It's already we factored in the useful life already, 12 to 18 months, right? And after that tu, you dah fully depreciate and you just refresh the fleet. But the return on investment calculation needs to be done very important. Needs to be done before.
Alright, thanks, Amir. So again, ROI, and of course, all things must be planned, right? Right at the beginning, we need to know what we are doing, and that's why we have people, like Mohammad and Amir brief us, and of course, in Sarawak Skills, we'll be having more initiatives in this area. Then we will be happy to use our consultants to come to your industry, where we can provide what we call customized solutions for different types of industries across different sectors. Yeah, that's why tomorrow, for example, we are having a MOU signing ceremony with Aerodyne, and from there we'll launch various initiatives as well. Alright, because we have honestly run out of time, and lunch is calling us, I'm sure. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to continue during the lunch hour. And on that note, I just want to very quick just to thank all of you for coming. And I'm sure that from the two speakers, we have quite a number of perspectives, fresh perspectives. Perhaps we can even see things differently through new lenses on how we can proceed forward. So on that note, I'd like to hand over to our Master of Ceremonies, Inche Adrus. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our moderator and to our speakers for a fruitful industry talk session. It is hoped that the input and sharing sessions from our invited speakers will be beneficial to all of our participants who are with us today.